Pravin Gordhan's legal team says the judgment against the public protector has vindicated the Public Enterprises Minister, supporting his evidence at the state capture inquiry. Now, the High Court in Pretoria on Monday set aside Busisiwe Mkhobane's report on the SARS rogue unit. She's been ordered once again to personally pay 15% of the costs. The court also found the report was based on discredited reports and unsustainable facts. Minister Gordhan's attorney, Tebogo Malatji, joins us now. Thank you so much for your time. Tell me a little bit more about Monday's court ruling. Does this put an end to it? Because I understand this is the third court issue against your client, the Public Enterprises Minister, launched by the Public Protector.
Yep. Well, we would hope that it does. It is, after all, a full bench judgment, unanimous 3 judges. But of course, there is the possibility of an appeal to the Supreme Court of Appeal and another one to the Constitutional Court. But the judgment was very emphatic in many respects. So one would hope that it really puts an end to this sordid narrative, as the judges have put it, of the so-called rogue unit. It was an investigative unit lawfully established.
And it was, I think what's quite interesting about this whole rogue unit narrative is that you're not just dealing with this in a legal way, you're also dealing with it in the court of public opinion. I know when Pravin Gordhan appeared at the before Justice Zondo last week, if you look at what's being said on social media, people were saying, you see, finally he admits there was a rogue unit. Whereas the truth is, we've known there was a unit, but it wasn't a rogue unit, it was a legal unit. How are you dealing with that? Because the reality is public perception is important as well, isn't it?
Well, it is. I mean, the message that comes out of the judgment is that, firstly, public officials cannot get away with shoddy job. And the narrative of this unit as a rogue is exactly what the judges have made sure all of us disavow ourselves from. It's a lawfully established unit, and it has done incredibly good work. And much of the judges' concern in the judgment, when you read through it, is the extent to which the Office of the Public Protector ignored evidence that showed what good work was being done by that particular unit to make sure that sufficient tax is collected for you and I and all South African citizens. So the narrative is a very sorry affair. And it's our hope that this judgment brings it to an end.
How does it vindicate the Public Enterprises Minister in terms of his appearance last week before before Justice Zondo? Because one of the things that people were going on about a lot was saying, well, he's actually admitted that he didn't have any evidence when he suggested that Tom Moyane was involved in state capture.
Yeah. Well, let's put it this way. The evidence clearly before the courts that has been put by our client, the minister, and the 2 other parties, Mr. Pillay and Mr. van Locherenberg, convinced the judges that what has happened here is a great injustice to these 3 individuals. So here we are as South Africans with this view that there's a unit that was established unlawfully. And the courts have said of the public protector that her conduct was egregious. What that means is outstandingly shocking. Shocking in what respects? The extent to which it has ignored evidence of these 3 gentlemen on what the unit actually did for the better good of South Africans. So it's vindicated in that sense. And it's also vindicated because the judgment also goes into the findings around, did he mislead Parliament or not? And the judges say it makes absolutely no sense that the public protector could arrive at such a conclusion. And of course, they've expressed their displeasure and rationality on her findings, also on the legal prescripts that she had gotten completely wrong. Now, in our client's case, the affidavit makes reference to the competence of the incumbent to the office. And the judges said those allegations were irrelevant to the case we were making about the fact that the report falls to be reviewed and set aside. And it is only 2 paragraphs that have been stricken off the record. And those relates to ministers' statements around the competence of the incumbent to the office. But you read the judgment, it speaks for itself. And it will make quite an interesting, it will bear testimony quite interestingly in the proceedings that are pending before Parliament.
Absolutely. So, of course, what's happening next in Parliament is a panel set up to decide whether Busisiwe Mkhwebane is fit to hold office. In terms of your client, is there anything more that he's going to do legally on this matter, or does he feel the issue rests here?
Well, the issue rests in the sense that there can no longer be a debate, to our mind, about the lawfulness of the establishment of the unit. There can no longer be a debate about whether Minister misled Parliament or not. But of course, we are all still studying the judgment and its import on him in person. He's been subjected to quite a lot of scrutiny, unfairly so, arising from this narrative of the so-called rogue unit. And it is, I would imagine, his absolute sincere hope that this puts to rest the debate on this topic.
Do you feel there's a concerted, deliberate campaign against your client?
Well, you would know me better than that. I do not venture to comment on matters of that nature. But of course, the judgment, when you read it, is quite helpful to our client in vindicating him on all fronts, including the matters which he was unfairly confronted with at last week's proceedings.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. We do appreciate you coming in to talk to us. That, of course, was Minister Pravin Gordhan's attorney, Tebogo Malatji.